up, beautiful people? This is A.L. Johnson with Elevated Men, and we're back again with another conversation about co-parenting. Co-parenting. So that's what we talked about last week. We started off talking about how over 30% of households in our community are in a co-parenting situation. So this is extremely important. It affects our children, their future, their mindset, and so we definitely have to talk about it. Of course, to aid me in the conversation, I got my brothers from Elevated Men with me. Uh, First, Mr. LaRon Barnes, how you doing this evening? Uh, okay, I think he's lost. He lost. Andrew Boykin, can you hear me? Okay.
Nope, but I can hear you just fine.
No, but
Can you hear
not.
me?
But that's fine. Just fine. And what's up, Lojo?
What it do? What it do, good people? Let's get it in. Gonna have another great conversation.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, so we got a couple people tapping back in with us. Give us just a second here. LBZ in the house. What's up, bro?
What is going on, family? Listen, I'm so glad to be here. To try to throw me out, but I got back in.
Hey, man, we need you. We need you. So we're glad you're here. Miss Devin Elisse from Lifted KC. What's going on?
Hey.
Hey, real quick before we get started, tell us a little bit about the. You got a conference coming up?
So I don't have a conference coming up, but I am a part of a conference. It is Right of Joy. It's going to be at the UMKC, excuse me, October 13th through the 15th. Go to www.rightofjoy.com. There's going to be a lot of dialogue about mental health in the Black community, poetry, arts, I cannot power of don't let me blotch their name up right now, but it's a group of poets that are putting this conference on. So tap in. They have some phenomenal speakers that are going to be there. I am going to be hosting a breakout session on Unmasked. So I can't tell you what it's about, but you can just kind of use your creativity when you think unmasked with mental health, and it's going to be good. So if you guys can get there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They're going to have a gala Friday night. Thursday, I think they're having like a poetry power thing. So I'll put it on my Facebook so you guys can check it out.
Got it. Got it. Well, definitely support her. Check out Lifted KC because we're on the same mission, improving the mental health of the men in our community. And so let's get into the real conversation, the meat and potatoes. We were talking about co-parenting last week. We started off talking about how co-parenting exists because a relationship didn't work out, and we went from that to dating with kids, and then we ended up on religion. I don't know, you have to go back to the last episode. If you go to YouTube at Elevated Men, you'll be able to check that out. It was a great conversation, but let's just get this started. So we were talking in our chat group earlier, and for those of you that don't know, we have some serious conversations offline too. And for any men that want to join, we actually have a private Discord group where we're able to get a little more candid in our conversation. And so if you'd like information on that, just inbox us at Elevating Men on Facebook or on YouTube. But the conversation that we were having offline was about co-parenting when there is distance involved. Really, really, really tough situation. And I also have to put a disclaimer on this too, because everybody on the panel, of course, has children, which means they have previous relationships. And so everything that you hear tonight isn't necessarily a direct reflection of our personal situations. We pull from, families, friends, other people that we know, and things that we see. And so when it comes to long distance relationships, I remember we had Stacey Shaw. She's an attorney that deals in divorce, custody, child support law, and all of that. One of the things that she said during that interview was that a lot of people split up and they end up, moving on with their lives. They find a better job, they get into a new relationship, and they end up moving out of state. Now, has anybody on the panel dealt with that, either personally or through a close relationship, a friend? Have you kind of seen that situation before?
Yeah.
Yup.
So yeah,
Okay.
My daughter's mother, she got a better job. She got a really great job opportunity on the East Coast, and my daughter was still like in the fifth grade, sixth grade fifth grade when she got the job. She stayed with me for one more year until she got into middle school. But Yeah, it was hard because she became a latchkey kid in the 7th grade, not knowing anybody. So the panic set in, the panic set in. I was no longer her coverer. I no longer had eyes on her. Talking about religion. Oh man. And I'm always that guy who's always arguing with that other guy who talks to that guy. Man, I was like, oh, please, man. Whew.
Yeah, yeah. I've been there too. My two oldest children, they live out of state, and then I have children here in the home. It creates a lot of different situations. You kind of worry about when we talk about building your legacy, right? Like you want your family to be close, you want your children to be close. It's really hard to pull that off when you have hundreds of miles of distance in between them, especially when they're young, because children really create that bond through playing and connecting physically. And so, although we have the technology now where you can make the phone calls, you can do the FaceTimes and things like that, it's a little dull for a lot of children. So it's really hard to create that bond and create that connection. And then as a man, a lot of times, and I'll say most of the time, really, we want to have that control. Like men love control, and there's a large amount of control that you lose when there's that distance involved. Right. I remember a couple situations. My children were a little bit younger, and trying to discipline them through the phone. Can you imagine that? Right. So when you're in person, you can use your voice, you can use your body language. Over the phone, they can just hang up or hand the phone to somebody else. I remember one time I was getting on to my daughter, and next thing I know, I'm talking to my son, and he was like, "Hello, Dad? What? Huh?" And so a lot of situations are created about that. Devin, did you have something that you wanted to add to that?
That's funny because my 5-year-old, I was fussing at him for drawing on himself, and he hung up the phone on me. I was like, "Don't!" And I'm like, "I'm gonna come and get you," and I'm like, "Yeah, okay, that we're gonna see how that holds." But yeah, so I have 3 children, and my oldest is out of town, living with me, and my 2 youngest are back in Kansas City. So it is extremely difficult just because my middle child that's in Kansas City is a girl. She's the only girl. So that whole a mother's supposed to raise her daughter. She's developing. She's 5th grade. So just the whole transition that we as women go through with that young age going into our preteen ages is just like I'm battling that. And it's on the flip side, it's so different because you typically hear the man stating that they don't have that connection with their kid because they're the ones that lose that relationship. But when I initially moved down here, all my children came with me, and my daughter, she definitely resented my move, because she was going through something eternally where I can't put a finger on it, but I knew that she needed her dad. Like she had experienced a trauma that I feel like only her dad's covering could help her heal through. And against everybody, society, the world, family, even my parents, they're like, them kids need to be with you. You keep them, da 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 da. But for me, there was a mental healing that I knew my daughter needed. And if I would have fought against that, my fear was doing more damage to her, not allowing her to be able to process through what happened to her own trauma, and getting the things that she needed, which was at that moment she needed some type of protection from her dad, and I knew that I couldn't give it to her. So it would have been selfish of me to try to put my ego of I'm your mama, you stay here because you're a girl. I couldn't give her what her dad could. So ultimately I made the decision for her and her younger brother to go back with their dad. And it's so tough because like you said, you want to discipline them through the phone, you want to congratulate and high five their accomplishments, but I'm here. I'm usually try to come in town once a month because I'm that devoted to my babies. But now it's kind of scaled back just a little bit. But yeah, it's difficult with the long distance for sure.
It's really tough, Lauren.
So let me understand this right. I think I heard you, but I wasn't quite sure. So I want to make sure I understand this right. You understood that your daughter needed something that her father could provide, So you relinquish control and allow her to come home?
Yeah, because one of the things that I tried to get my ex-husband to understand, me leaving him was about what we were going through. It had nothing to do with my children. And everything that I do going forward is only about my children. Like, I don't hate him. I don't want bad to happen to him. So if it's going to benefit my children, I'm going to do it, regardless of how the world will think that I look. Because I mean, I've gotten a whole lot of, you don't even have your kids. And it's like, I don't have to explain to you why I don't, because at the end of the day, my focus is my children, which is why they are with their dad. Because like I said, that trauma, I could relate to what my daughter was going through. And what she was needing was what I needed, but I wasn't able to get it, because sometimes parents don't see, or they don't take the time to remove themselves from their child's trauma. Everything is about them. Like, no, you're not going because I'm mad at your daddy right now. Has nothing to do with me and him. It had everything to do with my daughter, the pain she endured, and the protection that she needed to reassure herself that if anything was to happen, her daddy was going to be there. And I didn't want to come in between that. So, yeah.
I will say once again, Devin, Elisse, for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Hey, definitely got to commend you for that.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it was hard. It was super hard. But, like I
mean,
said,
it's hard not to be selfish when it comes to our children, because they're a part of us. You know what I'm saying? And so you want to be able to have that control, and not just about discipline, but you want to be able to display love to them. One of the hardest things for me was not being able to hug my children. Like, look, it tears me up still to this day. I get a phone call with some excitement. Like, my daughter, she just got a new job, here last week or whatever. And the most I can do is, high five through the phone, congratulations, send her a meme or something like that. But, to not be able to physically be there is so hard. And we talk about men's mental health, and when we look at some of the statistics that men deal with when it comes to depression, heart attacks, strokes, all these different things, it's a combination of factors that all tie around stress. And one of the biggest stressors for a lot of the men that I speak with who have children and are in a co-parenting relationship is that co-parenting relationship. And it always isn't about friction with the mother. A lot of times it's just the fact that you're not there with your children at night, when the rain pours and the thunder's rolling, and they have fear and you can't protect them. It's tough on your mind. It's tough on your mind. We haven't heard from you, LaRon, and I saw you, Lauren, so I'll go to you next. But what do you have to add to the conversation? I know you had to leave out a little early last week, but I know you were kind of tuning in. What thoughts do you have so far?
Just about the conversation in general, to be straightforward with you, have not been placed in a situation where I've had one of my children far away from me. I can only imagine the heartbreak of a distance, because to not be able to hold your child, to not be able to show them with physical love that you love them, that you're proud of them. So just when I'm hearing Devin tell the story, and I'm hearing us just having a conversation in general, I said, wow. In my heart, I'm like, I can only imagine not having my child in my arms, not being able to love them. As much as they be going wild and crazy, listen, be wild and crazy around me. I love it. So just to hear that, I can only imagine how devastating to the heart it is, especially when you don't see your child in months. Ooh, I could not imagine that, yo.
It is it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And then especially when you have multiple children, like I said, trying to get that relationship together is a whole nother conversation, which we'll definitely get into. I promised Lauren I go to him and then you, Andrew.
So I had a unique experience with my oldest. So for the first 9.5 years of her life, she lived with her mom, and her mom was here semi-local. She was just right across the road in Olathe. And so, for the most part, I could almost be there right at a moment's notice. But her mother, she was, trying to move forward in life, in her own personal life. And so, in order to do that, she had to move out of town. And so, my first inkling was, oh no, you can't go. Like, you know, you're going too far away from for me to be, you know, close to my kids still. Well, she ended up saying, okay, well, she can come stay with you then. You know, and what was interesting is how those roles reverse, right? Because you know, you assume that you were going, you know, I'm gonna be the better parent. I'm blah, 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 blah. And you know, the challenges that you go through because that kid is going through transition again. It's that selfish mindset, you know, to say, you know, I have all the answers, you know, and it really, like, it was an eye-opening experience for me to understand the need that I have for my village, right? Because as a guy with a daughter, it was certain things I was like, yeah, I mean, simple stuff like, you know, combing her hair. I'm like, yeah, like my hair is nappy and I don't even care. So I don't know why y'all worried about hair. And then like, nah, she's a girl, it's different. And I'm like, it's only different because y'all say it's different. And it's just kind of like, you know, so I had to understand certain things that I was not equipped to do. And I think that's the importance of co-parenting. And when you talk about co-parenting, you know, it doesn't have to be just, you know, it's co-parenting. It's two parents in the same home. You still are doing it, you know, together as a partnership. And so, you know, there's always co-parenting, you know, but it is definitely, I'm sure, a lot harder. I could only imagine what my daughter's mother was going through, you know, moving away and things like that, and kind of how that can just tear you apart, you know, because a piece of you is not with you. And so, I know that it is definitely challenging to be far away where you can't be there at a moment's notice, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. There's an intruder. Just playing. So for those of you that just saw a new face pop on the screen, that's our brother, the fit pastor, Mike Patton. How you doing this evening?
I'm blessed and highly favored, man. So glad to be here amongst these great brothers and this great, awesome sister. What's up, Devin?
Yes. And for those of you that are watching right now, please share this content with your network. It's a good conversation. It's something that's extremely important, and it's something that over 30% of us deal with, and that's co-parenting. And so, Andrew, you have something you wanted to add to the conversation?
So one of the common words that I heard come out of your mouth, and Lauren's, is tearing me apart. And this is literally what happens. You know, not only are you in this state, but now your child is in this state, but your child is actually in this state, and you can't even see them. You can't see them. So you don't know. You just don't know. And for me, and I have to drop that in because I can't speak for all men, but for me, that's what bothers me most is when the knowledge that I think that I have to apply some type of control, I don't even have an inkling of what type of knowledge I need because I can't see what's going on. Part of me is missing from my own picture. Part of me is missing. And this new world that I'm in, this new world doesn't even understand that most of the time, if not all of the time, this is what I have to deal with and operate. So I'm trying to make this person, this new family that I'm with right now, believe that this is me, when in essence, this is me. This is all I have.
Man, listen,
Why your kid get the little paper?
Come on with the analogy, Mr. Boykin. I felt that.
Nah, I mean, but that's real though, because yeah, you can't be 100% complete without all of your children. I just really don't believe that. Even men who we feel willfully don't take care of their children, because of course there's deadbeat fathers. I still even feel in that situation that there's some pain there that we're not recognizing. I know I liken it to my own father. I always thought and felt that because he willingly left and he made certain decisions of not being there, on a consistent basis, I figured he was living his best life. That was my view of it. But as an older man myself, I'll be 40 next year. Now I can look back and recognize that the pain he was feeling actually came out through his health and the way he handled his life and his lifestyle. And so I know that even with him making a willful decision, I don't know what was going on in his head. He never really told me, but the pain is still there. When you have children, they're a part of you, and you have to have that connection. You have to. Mike, you have something you want to say?
I want to really pull myself together to bring about and piggyback on Brother Boykin. Um, my life was not only at a point because after my divorce, I was seeing a young lady, and there was a point that she had gotten pregnant, and we tried to make this thing work. But I ended up having to hear my child come into this world on the phone at the time. And what had happened was through the years, we kind of went back and forth trying to co parent, but it wasn't the same being there. To make a long story short, it was about 6 years ago that my son, who was almost 30, said, "Look, Dad, I want to come home. I want to be with you." And so he came home, and I picked him up on a Thursday, and I was preaching the 7 last words on Easter, prior to Easter, and I didn't know the state of mind, but I was just so happy that he was here. He'd gone through a lot of situations that I feel as though if I would have been there full time as a full time dad and not a part time dad, things wouldn't have happened. And his mom told me a lot, and I saw him kind of, here and there. However, uh, I picked him up, and he was just one handsome, awesome young man. And we hugged and we loved on each other. And then that night, I had preached the last word, "Father, into thy hands I commit my spirit." That boy came up from the third row and gave his life to Jesus Christ. Um, and so the next day, I was ready to come home. People had brought me furniture. "Look, I'm so happy that your son is home." I had like the community just wrapping themselves around him. So the next day, I'm trying to be as fast as I can because I don't want to take up all the time. But this is so important to this subject of co-parenting. And so I came home, and I'm calling his name, Mike, Mike, Mike. And I noticed that he didn't answer. So I looked at the front door. The front door was unlocked. And I said, "He's gone." So I didn't hear from him for about maybe 2 weeks. Then he called me and told me he had to leave because he had made a bad drug deal. And he didn't want his sisters, he didn't want his dad to be killed because they were coming after him. Well, it was a little bit after that, come whatever Mother's Day is, March or whatever it is, I just can't think, that I got a call that morning that he was um, he was on the run, and he went up to pick up his girlfriend's son that morning at 5:45, and he got head on had a head on collision by a drunk driver and was killed instantly. So it's really something when you have to, and you never think that you have to bury your son. They would bury you before you bury them, but I had to go and do the eulogy, the last words to my son. And so I really have blamed myself. Um, and it took a long time for me to deal with this. And I grappled with the incompetence of me and the inconsiderate inconsistencies of me. And I say to all the fathers, man, time waits on no one. You can put your hand on the clock, but you can't stop time. Whatever you can do, spend time with your child. Because as you brought them into the world, he doesn't belong, and she does not belong to you. But what happens is it belongs to God, and he can take them whenever he wants to, because they don't belong to you, they belong to him. Spend time with your children, please. Because I still at times, when I looked at him and we were all there, I could just wake him up. He looked alive, but he was gone. It was just his body. Get with your kids right now where they're alive, where they can move when you touch them. They can feel when you pinch them. You can hug them when they cry. You can laugh with them when something just ain't funny, but you got a smile on your face. Do yourself that part to give up of yourself. Take off the narcissism and the self-aggrandizement and the pity party of yourself that you can't do. Yes, you can do long as you're alive, because you brought them in this world. Then it's up to you to take care of them while they're here. Because right now I can't see my son.
Wow. Mike, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I'm so
Me
sorry
too. We've had a lot of conversations over the years, and I didn't know that. And so,
and let me just say this. With just 1 minute, and what was so terrible about this is that my cousin, who I grew up with, Reggie, came from a line, and understand this now, that when you deal with drugs and deal with alcoholism, that ism now can perpetuate now to the point of birth to the next child. Understand, watch what you put in your body. If you're making babies and out doing whatever you're doing, you're married, watch what you put in your body, because what happened is that Uncle Frank drunk a lot. I believe this whole situation, if you ever look at the story of Foxy Brown and Richard Pryor, she did not want to marry this man because he did cocaine. It messed up the vaginal piece of her, and she had all these infections because he wouldn't stop smoking or snorting cocaine. Anyway, I had to do his eulogy 1 week before I had to go do my son's. This is a boy I grew up with. Uncle Frank had been gone, but he got lost in the world because of the split of the family. And so all of this happened in one time, and it's not a point where I'm looking to be patted on the back or as a victim. No. These things happen, man. But the point is that you never know when that person can be gone. Take it on yourself to spend as much time and love on them while you can, because the Lord giveth, but He's sovereign. He's omniscient. He's omnipresent. He's omniscient. The Lord giveth, but the Lord can take away. And so I'm in this cataclysm. My mind was messed up for years, until maybe 2 or 3 years ago. But I know one thing: weeping may endure for a night, but my joy will come in the morning. I will see them again. And I thank you all for the time for me just to express this particular moment, because this whole point just hit me in a whole different way, and I didn't mean to come off prolific or too long or overbearing.
Nothing to apologize about at all. And we appreciate you being transparent, because that's what the show is about, is us sharing some of our experiences in hopes that it'll reach someone else and help them in their life. And so a lot of what you said even touched me. Full transparency, Lauren and I were talking a little bit earlier, and I was talking about my pain and my children being far away from me, and how sometimes it's hard and it's difficult to try to run a business and manage my children here, and make time to go there. And what you said was really powerful, that at the end of the day, those are just obstacles, and obstacles are created to be overcome. And so thank you for that. Man, Andrew.
So in the other chat, if anybody can you post those and put it together, though? When you meet somebody, when you meet some man, and it could be a man or a woman, but I'm just talking about men right now. This is what we think we see, this whole person, but we don't really focus on that tear, or what we might see is this right here. And we never really noticed that the man has probably put this in, trying to fill that space that was torn away, or try and put this that has put that space, fill that space that is torn away, or maybe it's a smoking object that they're trying to put there in that space that's torn away. And usually what happens is later on in life, and you probably can't see this, but you go to the doctor because you got all these symptoms and problems that actually start to fill that space that was torn away, because we really can't we really can't we can't understand how to fill that space that we have torn from us because of not knowing what we were putting in place, because of not knowing the importance of our helpmeet at that time, and the importance of our role of keeping the family together and protecting the family as a unit, and so forth and so on.
Well,
So
you
Yeah.
think when you think about it, you know, you made a statement. We don't know how to fill that space, FILL, because we can't feel FELL because we're so cold inside that we don't have anything to give back.
I know in
Exactly.
our chat earlier, Andrew, we were talking about this, and you talked about the medications. And I just like to read those off for the audience. You know, ways that we medicate in these situations: avoidance, anger, gambling, chasing money, sex, food, avoidance. I noticed you put that twice. Pretending, lying, more anger, self-sabotage. Can you elaborate on the avoidance? Because you put that in all capitals and you said it twice. So what does that
So,
look
and I'm glad that you picked up on that avoidance. There were times that, because my life, the life that I put in place, had caused this catastrophe in my life. Meaning, at one point in time, I was giving my daughter's mother $500 a month. We weren't on paper or anything, but I was giving her $500 a month. Plus, I was keeping my daughter 3 days a week. Plus, buying her clothes. Plus, anything my daughter's mother needed. So if it was more than that $500, the $500 was just the standard, the beginning. Anything she needed, there was never no. But when I lost that opportunity, because of my own ignorance growing up, then I lost the opportunity to feel comfortable and confident. And these shoulders that everyone saw and that my child would gladly stand on, they began to do that. And there were so many times that not only did I not have a place for my daughter to stay, or a place for me to stay, shall I say, I didn't have a place for my daughter to stay. So part of that included avoiding the opportunity to take my daughter with me, because there was no place to go, you know, because I had not built anything and I was still trying to rebuild. And it was painful, not being able to say yes when she needed, or to respond when I did not have, or did not even have a car to get to her, you know. So yeah.
like?
Sometimes guys don't necessarily bow out just because it's that the door's over there. Sometimes they don't stay away just because the door's over there. Sometimes they lock the door because they have nothing to bring, nothing to offer, nothing for that daughter to stand on.
Mhm. But real quick, for those of you that are watching this, um, I consume a lot of content, and this isn't just because I'm elevating men, but we have some very transparent conversations. More men need to hear this, and we all are wise enough to know that there's an algorithm at play here, between social media. And so I need you all to help us out, like and share this, because we definitely need more men to understand that there are men out here who are willing to open up and be transparent so that we can heal. It is so important, so important. And so, if you could do that for us now, I'd appreciate that. Mike, you have something you want to add?
You know, I'm totally acquiesce, Dr. Boykin, of what you're saying, because how can someone give something to someone when he does not know himself? And let me say this, number two: just because you pick up your child and give child support does not mean that you're fathering that child. What you're doing is enabling that child to go to and forth without you really taking the responsibility of being a father. Being a father is being there at the point of time of communication, of hurt, pain, understanding making sacrifices on your own outside of just paying a bill. Anybody can pay a bill. Just like when people, and I'm going off subject right now, so forgive me. It's like when a person says, well, I'm behind you with Black Lives Matters, and they want to give some funds, but they don't want to show up when the hand is needed now to pull somebody up when they're down. And so what we see a facade. And fatherhood is not a facade. My daughter's, oh my God, Tavia, she's in Nashville right now, married, and she got her doctorate. Uh, uh, Alyssa's getting ready to, Alyssa got her master's degree, and she's teaching in the system right now. Michaela's getting ready to graduate from KU with electrical engineering degree. And I mean, just my girls and these that I was there raising and growing up are doing such a great job. But it was the mother and father we were able to now pull together and come to some type of elevation as parents. You're talking about elevating men. We have to elevate ourselves as parents and look beyond the mishaps we may have and put in what does it take for us to co-parent. And so we always and never allowed ourselves to bring a catastrophe in front of them and let them see the ambiguity between us because we had to use common sense. And so if you are a baby raising a baby, it's hard to have common sense when you're not there at the point of maturity. Someone leading you and guiding you. This program, Elevating Men, is a guiding post to help those now that don't have possibly someone to talk to. Call us and talk to all these great men and this great woman right here that has now these situations. It's a powerful moment to have a powerful time, have powerful power now pound for pound that can help a brother now who may be lost. Remember the story about the 99 sheep? If there's 100, if there's one that's lost, that one is just as important as the 99. That's what we are talking to for those that are listening tonight. This is a powerful conversation that can turn your life possibly around. And it may not happen now, but due season, you shall reap a harvest of blessings if you faint not.
Man, I want to add to that too because a lot of people assume that Elevating Men is just a podcast because that's what they see. But there's a lot of conversations that go on behind the scenes. And so if you're a man who's, listening to this and you're looking for a group of other men to get with who are trying to improve themselves, reach out to us. If you're a woman and you have a teenage boy or a young man in your life that you're trying to, just kind of help see the path, get in contact with us. I remember here a little over a year ago, Mike and I met with a young brother at a church. And we won't share all of his business there, but he was contemplating suicide, and we all came together at a moment's notice to be there for him, and it was a very, very, very powerful situation. And so that's what this is really about. It's not a podcast. This is just where we come and we talk and we try to have public conversations that we feel other people need, but it's so much more than that. So much more than that.
Brother Devin, can I ask AJ? Can I ask Sister Devin a question?
Yes.
I'm dealing with a person right now that their daughter, she's 20 years old, and she's dating this guy. He's 23, she's 20, and her mother had to go pick her up from the police station because they got into a fight, and he was physical with her. Okay, how do you handle a situation whereas you have a child and the child is maybe 2 years old, then here the other person, here they are not having another child, but there's domestic violence involved. Now I know what I said. How would you handle that situation? Would you leave and would you get an ex parte and leave him, or would you stay and try to work it out? What would be your response to that?
Woo, you just put me on First Street. So I think that question is twofold. First off, there's something deeper. I mean, just any woman that stays in a relationship, and I've been that woman that has stayed in a relationship where there was violence, it's band-aiding something deeper in her. Whether that's acceptance or false love. I mean, I'm just speaking on my reasons of why I stayed. Wanting to feel something or feeling like the hit was the attention and that was the love, and not really understanding her value and her worth. And until she can see herself for who she really is, there's not going to be much that a surrounding village can do but pray, pour into her, lift her up verbally. I mean, and when I'm saying lift her up, reminding her of who she is, who she's destined to be, who she was called to be, who she is now, who she has created and thought that she was, that she isn't. Those are going to be the things that she needs to see so that she can rebuild her internal strength. She's not going to go until she's ready to go. For me personally, I purposely not included family in my domestic situations because I knew I wasn't going to leave. That it's difficult to say what the parents are going to do, because again, as a parent, you can't come and tell me that my ain't hurt and I'm just going to leave her in there. I'm going to try to pry her out of that situation. The best thing to do is try to get her to realize that that's not what she needs, and help walk her through the steps of making sure she doesn't have to go back to that situation, because it could be a sense of security in that relationship or financial or whatnot. So I think, like I said, it's twofold, and it's deeper than what I can just surfacely talk about. But just from my own experience, like I said, it's she's there because there's something in her that needs to heal so that she can see who she really is and what her worth is. So
Put that Stone Cold Steve Austin stunner on somebody.
I mean, you could go play football and tackle him like I. No, I'm just playing. Go ahead.
Wow.
See,
We got a couple comments here. I want to recognize the people in the audience. And so Tammy Carolyn, thanks for tuning in. We always appreciate your support. She said, I love that you're discussing co-parenting related to an intact family as well. That can be a real struggle too. And so we'll definitely touch on that a little further. Karen Bugner, thank you for tuning in. She said, parenting is action. Just waiting for this to pop up. I'm very passionate about this subject. Is it better to single parent when it's toxic, my situation, or to co-parent and work through the toxic nature? My son is almost 30 and this subject still pains me to my core. I'm not angry. It's just painful for my son's void, an absent father. Absolutely. So let's talk about that. I know that was something that you mentioned earlier, Lauren, about co-parenting being something that we have to deal with when we're in the home as well. I want to touch on that. It looks like you guys had a couple of thoughts, so I want to recognize that. Before I go to you, Lauren, Andrew, what did you have?
So about Mike's comment about the abusive situation, and Tammy actually stated something like a woman should always be advised to separate herself from someone who shows love through violence. I had an opportunity to share with a woman some years ago. She trusted and shared with me her situation about how her boyfriend took a bat to her, and the lasting thing that I shared with her is, there's a strong possibility that one of these times the bat is going to find that right spot on your head, and you're not going to wake back up because you're giving him that opportunity time and time again. So I say this to say there's a strong possibility that we really need to understand how to put that mask on ourselves first before we try and save our family, take care or love on him, and then think about that baby. We have to actually put that mask on ourselves first. She can love that man from afar. She can love herself first and foremost, but more so, she can understand that there's a strong possibility that should he put his hand on her and she just accidentally trips over something that was behind her and hits her head on the edge of that coffee table and never wake up, she will never see that baby again. She will never see herself in the mirror again. she will never have opportunity or choice to even think about what she should have done again.
That's real. Yeah, I know some women that have been in abusive relationships, and I agree with Tammy's comment. You always want to separate yourself from that situation as quickly as possible, as quickly as possible. Um, Lauren, you were next, and then I see you, Mike.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to Miss Buckner's question that she asked about, is it better to, be a single parent when it's toxic or co-parent and work through a toxic nature? That's tricky. I think, if the father is absent, it's easier, obviously, because he doesn't necessarily want anything to have to deal with the parenting role anyway. So you don't really have to co-parent in that situation. I think, when you have a situation where the father is, involved, but he's toxic, you, I think you have to try to parent through the toxic nature, look for counseling, and maybe a professional resource to kind of help through things, because if he's not going away, the toxicity is not going to change. And when you look at the court systems, they're not going to intervene in a lot of cases unless there's some type of abuse anyway. And so you kind of have to co-parent through that toxic nature, and maybe, have a, try to have a conversation, whether it's through mediation or whether, you guys are able to have a conversation amongst each other where the kid's not involved, where you talk about, what you see and how you feel and how it's toxic for the kid, and see if you can kind of work through that. And in the instances where you can, unfortunately, that parent will always be there. And so, you have to just do the absolute best that you can.
Yeah, got it. Mike, you have something you wanted to add?
I want to say to any woman that's listening to this podcast, and if you don't like what I'm saying, then you just don't like what I'm saying. Domestic violence is presently relevant. It's toxic, is reprehensible, and a person is sick when they feel as though they have to express themselves by putting their hands on a female, anybody, especially a female, and especially the mother of his child. Get up and leave now. Pick your stuff, get an Uber or wherever you are, and get the heck up out of there. Because if it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck. That's exactly what it is. Something has happened in that person's life that has perpetuated this just out of order mentality that you're gonna put your hands on somebody else because now this is the way that you communicate. That way was communicated to you, and this was not the first time this has happened. Get the hell out, period. And I'm not going to hell because I said hell. Get out now, period. It ain't no we can work it out. Listen, and what you're doing if you stay there, you're not only putting yourself in a type of situation, but what's happening, you're putting that child in another situation that they're going to see something, and they could be the beneficiary of something now that you could have gotten away with. Now get the hell out now. Do not stay around that type of toxicity, because now you're going to not only hurt, you can end up in a grave 6 feet under because now you're trying to hold on. You have the spirit of abandonment. No, baby, you are somebody. You are God's child. You are somebody that now God that takes care of. God loves you. God wants to take care of you. So what you do is yield yourself, humble yourself, get out of that crap that you in, because it's crap and it's BS, period.
It is.
Because you don't deserve to be hit on, talked down to, or talk that in a way that dehumanizes you as an individual. Period.
Yes, sir. Andrew.
So one thing that used to take place is that parenting was a broader word. And to be a parent, and the word I'm using is APPARENT, to be a parent, is to make it clear. And also to be a parent is to raise your child the best that you can. What they did before was men and women of the family of the daughter's family. They made sure that before she left the house, he came inside the house so that he would see that she is not alone. She is not going to be alone throughout this endeavor, and that when this particular person that she's going out with chooses to act a certain way towards her, then he's acting a certain way towards her family. So nowadays it's a little bit different because she chooses to either separate herself from her family and or chooses or sometimes allows him to separate her from her family. My point is this: we can parent in different ways, and one of the things, if you all have an ink pen, I'm hoping you can write down the word, the letters SNITCH, because a lot of people think that that's a bad word, SNITCH. And what I'm hoping that people will see is that is the S is to share, the N is to new, the I is information, the T is that, the C is can, and the H is help. Share new information that can help. Make it apparent that something is going on in your household. Talk to your pastor, talk to your father, talk to your mother, talk to your brother, talk to your best friend. Because when this person, this sick person, as Mike referred to, knows that other eyes are now on him, he's a little bit more reluctant. He's angrier, but he's a little bit more reluctant to let it be known, let it be seen of what he did, because now he could actually be held responsible because other people now know.
Yeah, that's the first sign of an abuser is the desire to seclude.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they want to take you off, have you away from your family. I've seen situations where men prey on women where they see that there's not an active father around, there's no male figures, and so when it comes to that physical intimidation, it isn't there, and so they feel that they can do whatever they want. And yeah, the best thing you can do in that situation is just leave immediately. Like Mike said, don't stay there and try to heal. I know women are loving, and you know you always want to see the good in a person. He said, well, maybe it's this or maybe it's that, but at the end of the day, if it's reached the point of violence, there's nothing more left to do than to leave. And that's
Maybe
it.
it's violence.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Share new information that you can do what? Say that again.
Share new information that can help.
I love that.
Snitch.
Yeah, I love that. Um, Tammy, she
Yeah.
said, I'll add that women can certainly be the aggressors, and young boys and girls will learn and repeat the same. That's true as well, because a lot of times we do kind of focus on the physical abuse. I believe that's usually men. I have seen women who were verbally abusive, and that can have a detrimental effect as well, not only on the man's mental health, but again, children, you know, they repeat the behaviors that they see, and so now you have, you know, a boy who is swearing and cussing and yelling and hollering and things like that,
Right.
and
Right.
that very well could have come from the anger of the mother. You
That's
know,
right.
and same
That's
thing with
right.
the daughter, and so we have to be very, very mindful of the way that we vent in front of our children. Something that we talked about last week is what information do we share, because we know that from the perspective we were speaking of before about co-parenting and separate homes, there was some type of dissension that created that situation to begin with. And how much of that do we share with our children? What do we do when a situation arises and there's tension between both of the parents and your child is right there next to you? You know, do you out loud express your frustration? You know, do you have conversations in front of them with your friends or other family members about how, you know, the father ain't this or the father ain't that, or, you know, the mother's a hoe or whatever it may be? Are you pulling the children into your pain? That's something that you definitely have to think about. I always want to, you know, give the floor to the lady a little bit because she's a special guest with us. We haven't been to you in a while. What are you thinking about?
This is good. I'm full, honestly, as a woman to just hear the transparency and the vulnerability of you men speaking about your emotions when it comes to being a father, the void that sometimes a woman doesn't realize we put on. And honestly, my recollection of just seeing men and me moving into this mental health community is really kind of what kind of initiated the Men Heal movement, because I also can see how we what is the word I'm looking for? We kind of look at you guys like you're exempt. And more of that is because, you know, the world, you guys put on this persona that you're strong and that you don't go through things. And it's very rare that as a woman, we hear the vulnerability in men being transparent about their emotions. So we don't think that the smallest things of relocating has that much of an impact. So just to hear that as a woman, I hope that the other women that are listening, the women that will listen to this, once we share it and it's shared or whatever, that they really take note of the importance of each parent being intentional about the things that they're doing so that it doesn't have a negative effect on the other parent, but also the child. Making sure that everything done in co-parenting is for the child's best interest, and it's not a malicious or I'm gonna get you back because we broke up, or I'm mad because you cheated, or whatever the case, whatever the pain that happened in that relationship, that it doesn't spill over into the parenting relationship. Because I am really big on making sure that my ex knows that everything that I do is for our kids. It has nothing to do with how you treated me as a husband. It has everything to do with how I want our kids to see you as a father. So I commend everybody on this panel. I thank you guys always for inviting little old me to have my input, but this is powerful as a woman, like I said, to just hear that transparency. And I pray that this is a part of my mission, and I know elevating men as well, that it's reached and it's impactful, because we don't realize the pressure that we put on men. And even with me doing all the work that I do in the mental health community, it's almost like we're teaching women how to operate without you guys. I don't want to live like that. Like, I'd be like, God created us after Adam because it was designed for us to be together. I don't want to live life without a man. I don't think that I would be able to navigate without a man. So there is
Preach,
there
sister.
is a need
Preach.
that we have for you guys. And I just want each man to be able to find that place where they can be vulnerable and actually work through their own healing so that they can be the leaders of their home. And then our homes can create healthy communities, and those communities can just pour into our cities and states, and eventually, God willing, we just have a healthy world at some point. That's my dream. You know, Martin had his, that's mine. So again, I commend all of you guys for what you're doing on your platforms. I pray that this podcast and every other one reaches and touches someone. I hope that the women watching are seeing how we need to find that place to be softer, so that men can feel safe to do what's being done right now in the privacy of their own home. Healing can actually take place. So hats off.
It can. LeBron, we haven't heard from you in a little bit. One thing that I always love about you is you're very observant. You have a very strong listening ear. I think that's kind of due to your life coaching experience and you know, your motivational speaking and things like that. And so, what have you heard from all this? Because I know you've just been kind of sitting back, you know, drawing it in. And so, just when it comes to the pain of co-parenting, the separation, the anxiety that's created in that, you know, what are some tips that you have for people to kind of overcome those things, or just what are some of your general thoughts?
Well, there was definitely a lot said, so I don't think we have the time to cover it all. What I will say is this. I felt through the conversation that the thing that is needed right now is being healed from pain. I think the audience may need to hear more conversations, in particular like these, because there's a lot of pain and trauma that we don't talk about. And even the audience who are going to hear this and who are listening now were able to see something different. When we think about it, the conversation shifted a tad bit. But I also believe in that shift, there were some people whose healing process can take place. There are some women who may be in situations that they didn't know how to get out of, but the message that was spoken today on this panel has given them the keys and the okay to leave. I believe our community right now truly needed to hear this word. I believe that mental health is everything. And as we talk about elevating men, it's about mental health. Not just men's mental health, but we are talking about in particular men's mental health. But this is mental health has no gender. Gender. You hear me? It doesn't have a gender. Therefore, I truly believe that everything was spoken needed to be heard. In the first place, that healing starts with is in forgiving self. Understand that you didn't do anything wrong. Understanding that your mistakes don't make you wicked. Your mistakes, the people who accuse you doesn't mean make you wrong. So we got to forgive ourselves first. That's the first person we got to forgive. And then we got to forgive others. That's where the healing begins, is in first forgiving yourself and then forgiving others. And that's the beginning of the journey to healing. That's all I have, Andrew.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We're at our time. Man, definitely. I agree with you. It's a conversation that needed to be had. And I appreciate everyone's transparency and sharing their pain tonight, because that's the only way that we can heal. You can't heal what you don't recognize, right? And so, did anybody else have any thoughts or comments before we start to wrap the show up? Andrew.
So, this guy right here, this is who the next person meets in his life. And to, let's say, this guy. So to her, she thinks this is what she's seeing, the full him. But this is all that he has. And she doesn't realize that this part that was torn from him, something happens to them also, which tears him even more. He doesn't know how to process that, and he doesn't let her fully in, and it doesn't let her fully understand what's missing from her. So they now have a tear, and eventually they split. So the next person that he meets, this is what he brings to her. And what LaRon basically said is the key, how to put this person back together. You know, I was wanting you all to post this thing. People say that I'm the life of the party because I tell a joke or two. Although I might be laughing loud and hearty, deep inside, I'm blue. So take a good look at my face. You'll see my smile looks out of place. And if you look closer, it's easy to trace the tracks of my tears. And in this case, the tracks of my tears. If you look close, you can actually see my tears. More so, it's time for me to learn how to forgive my tears. And like LaRon said, that's a whole new show. But that is the answer. Hopefully we'll get into that next show.
For sure. Mike, any final words or thoughts?
if I can piggyback off my dear brother, working, there is I believe, a vast difference between someone that is broken and someone that is shattered. When something is broken, you oftentimes can find the pieces. But when something is shattered, it is broken down into micro pieces, in which there are pieces you can't find. I say this as a pastor. I say this as a man representing in my life what I've been through and my experiences with God, is that the potter wants to put back your broken pieces, your shattered pieces, and put them back together again. Let me say this. It ain't how you start, but it's how you finish. Because I love God, because I know he loves me, he looked beyond my faults and he saw my needs. And let me just say this finally. At the cross, where I first saw the light and the burdens of my heart rolled away. It was there by faith I received my sight. Now I'm no longer blind. Now I have happiness. Now I can see all the way. It's the cross of Christ. It's now yielding myself to him. Now they can put my broken, shattered pieces back together again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Lauren, any last words, final thoughts?
Man, what a refreshing conversation. An opportunity to be vulnerable for all of us. I think parenting is one of the most important things that we'll do in the course of our lives, and I think that's why you heard so much emotion and passion from each one of us, because we actually care. You know, and so I think that my hope is that people listen, don't watch this show, listen to this show, listen to this episode and what it means to us, and take that back into your own circle. Think about what it means to you, and whether or not you're the parent that has the residential custody, or you're the parent that is on the other side and just want to be a part of your child's life and create that impact. Start now. Start now. There's never a more perfect time to start than now. So take the opportunity. Uh, get rid of the shame of the past, the things that you didn't do, and just start afresh, start anew. And you will see the impact, not only that it has on your children, but you will also see the impact that it has on yourself.
Thanks. And I just want to say one last time, for any man or woman, for that matter, who has heard this conversation and you feel that you need someone to talk to behind the scenes, reach out to us directly. You can message us on our Elevating Men page on Facebook. We also have a YouTube channel that you can connect with us there. And then for men only, we do have a private chat group on Discord. You have to reach out to myself or Lauren online, and we can get you added to that group. And that's where we have more private and candid conversations. You don't even have to put your real name when you join the group, but if you do have some questions that you want to get some answers from some other men, we invite you to join our private Discord chat group. And so we definitely appreciate everyone who's tuned in. Again, we are wanting to grow this conversation, not for any type of monetary purposes or anything like that. Like I said, this is more than a podcast. We really want to have an effect on people's mental health and their relationships with their children, and we want to improve. We want to improve our communities. It's a sincere endeavor that we're on, and so we definitely want you to help us out and go along this journey with us. And so, my name is A.L. Johnson with Elevating Men. We'll be back again next week, Monday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, same place. And so we appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.